A ceasefire appears to be holding in Syria's south, with government forces moving out of the city of Sweida overnight. The U.S. had intervened to end days of fighting between government forces and fighters from the Druze minority group. Local reports suggest clashes between Druze fighters and local Bedouin tribes have killed more than 350 people since Sunday. Witnesses say government forces deployed to enforce an earlier truce joined in the fight on the side of the Bedouin. The situation sharply escalated when Israel launched airstrikes in Damascus on Wednesday, blowing up part of Syria's defense ministry and areas near the presidential palace. Attacks as well on government forces in the south. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington had engaged all parties and agreed on specific steps to end a volatile situation. Israel has warned, though, it will step up its strikes if it does not see full withdrawal of government forces, saying it wants to protect Syria's Druze minority. The Israeli military, which has taken control of the UN-monitored demilitarized zone on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, will not accommodate Syrian military presence on its border. Recent clashes underscore the challenges facing Syria's interim president in exerting centralized rule over the country. Ahmad al-Shara has emphasized that protecting Syria's Druze citizens is a priority. He vowed to hold those behind the attacks accountable and denounced Israeli actions as sowing division.
إن سوريا لن تكون أبدا مكانا للتقسيم أو التفتيت أو زرع الفتن بين أبنائها. نؤكد لكم أن حماية حقوقكم وحريتكم هي من أولوياتنا، وأننا نرفض أي مسعى يهدف لجركم إلى طرف خارجي أو لإحداث انقسام داخل صفوفنا. إننا جميعا شركاء في هذه الأرض، ولن نسمح لأي فئة كانت أن تشوه هذه الصورة الجميلة التي تعبر عن سوريا وتنوعها.
And for more, Blake Sifton joins us live from Tel Aviv. Blake, Syria's interim president there accusing Israel of sowing division with its attacks. But the Israeli Prime Minister said, we are working to save our Druze brothers.
That's right. Israel seemingly has two motivations for intervening in Syria. The first of which is to defend the Druze against violent persecution. This is under pressure from their own Druze minority in Israel. And the second is to enforce what it calls the demilitarization of southern Syria and to keep armed groups away from the border region with the Golan Heights, which it controls. The Druze community in Israel has been demanding the government take action. They are viewed as a loyal community in Israel. Many of them serve in the military. And when the violence in Sweida began over the weekend, they went on strike. They began protesting. And about 1,000 of them actually broke through the fence and entered Syria. Some of whom said they were going to go to Sweida to fight to defend their fellow Druze. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Katz said that they would do everything they could to protect the Druze. That led to 3 days of Israeli airstrikes targeting Syrian military convoys near Sweida and culminated yesterday, Wednesday, in the dramatic airstrikes targeting the presidential palace and defense ministry headquarters in Damascus. On the other point, the demilitarization of southern Syria, the Israeli military for about the last 8 months has seemingly taken every step it can to degrade Syria militarily. Of course, Syria is a longtime enemy of Israel under the former president Bashar al-Assad and his father. When Bashar al-Assad fell in December and many members of the Syrian military fled their posts, the Israeli military carried out some 600 airstrikes, targeting basically every piece of advanced Syrian military hardware they could find, from helicopters and jets to tanks to missiles to ships.
Oh, Blake, Mr. Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, has faced criticism for these attacks in Syria domestically. Critics accusing him of using those strikes to buy time and to draw out any talks for any truce in Gaza. And those have stalled despite U.S. efforts since at least early this month. Why is it taking so long this time to reach any kind of sustainable ceasefire on Gaza?
So the ceasefire talks for Gaza hinge on 4 issues. The first of which is how much aid will enter Gaza during a ceasefire and who it will be distributed by. The second of which is which Palestinian prisoners will be released in exchange for Israeli hostages and how many of them. Another sticking point is Hamas's demand for a guarantee that as long as they are continuing negotiations for a permanent ceasefire, even if it goes beyond the 60 days envisioned in this ceasefire, Israel will not renew its attacks as it did in March when the last ceasefire broke down. And fourth, and most crucially, is the redeployment of Israeli forces and where they will be during a ceasefire. The Israelis have insisted that they are going to stay in what's called the Moreg corridor. That's a narrow strip of land they've occupied since this previous ceasefire broke down that cuts the city of Khan Yunis off from Rafah. And in Rafah, they have announced plans to build what they're calling a humanitarian city where the entire population, some 2.3 million people in Gaza, will be pushed. So these points are complete non-starters for Hamas. They've said that they will not allow this. So as long as that's not ironed out, negotiations have stalled. However, in the last day or so, we are hearing reports that the Israelis may have lowered their demands and may be willing to redeploy their forces closer to the border with Gaza. If that were to happen, we could see a breakthrough in these talks at any stage.
Oh, thanks for that. Blake Sifton there with an update on negotiations to reach a ceasefire in Gaza as that very shaky, just about a day-old truce, at least for now, seems to be holding in Syria. Blake Sifton from Tel Aviv.